Hey guys, so we are continuing with our notes. These are all about real world problems, okay? Now what we're going to be talking about is when we have either an object being dropped or when we have like a vertical motion type of problem, okay? So this first part, it says we're going to be talking about modeling a dropped object. So here it says for a science competition, students must design a container that prevents an egg from breaking when dropped from a height of 50 feet. How long does the container take to hit the ground? So basically you're just standing at 50 feet and you drop the container, okay? Now, when we think about this, our height function is going to be as so. So we're going to have h equals, this should be negative 16t squared. And then what's going to happen is this 50 represents the initial height. So the formula you will always use if you're doing a dropped object will be h equals negative 16t squared plus, and I'm going to represent this as h naught. So h naught represents the initial height, so where you are dropping the object, okay? But when we are having this function, you will always have h equals and then that negative 16t squared. So that's always a given, and then you just have to determine what's your initial height that you're dropping the object. Now, it's asking us, how long does the container take to hit the ground? Well, we think about the ground, how high is that? What's the final height of the ground? Well, we should know the final height should be 0. So it says when the egg hits the ground, h would equal 0. So plug that in for h, and we're going to solve for t, because when it asks for how long, we're actually solving for t. So I have 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 50. Now notice we don't have that middle term. So how we're going to solve this is by taking the square root on both sides. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to move the 50 over. I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So now I have negative 16t squared equals to negative 50. Then I'm trying to get that t squared isolated, get it all by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 16. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do negative 50 divided by negative 16 in my calculator. Here, because this is a real world problem, it is okay to get decimals. So when I plug that into my calculator, I do get 3.125. Now I need to get rid of that square, so I square root both sides. And then we're going to take the square root of that. So let's round to 2 decimal places. So it's about 1 point, and it's going to round to 77. Now we are talking about seconds, so make sure you have your units. So this will be 1.77 seconds. Okay. Now you might be thinking, why are we, as I said, why are we doing decimals? Well, this is a real world problem. Would it make sense to have a square root and try to simplify that? No, we actually want to know what is the seconds. So when you're doing real world problems, it is okay to get a decimal as your final answer, okay? Okay, make sure you watch the next video. It is all going to be about now vertical motion problems.